Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. I will start off with item number 1, calling this meeting to order. It is now 7:02 on February 10th, and I would like to call this meeting to order. We'll go ahead to item number 2, roll call. Lane, once you are done, please let me know.
All good.
Thanks, Lane. Item number 3, previous minutes approval. The minutes were sent out last week. Are there any changes to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes have been approved. We will now go, can I get a motion and second to suspend the rules, please?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you, Tatum, and whoever else that was. I will introduce Heidi Levine. She is the Vice President of Student Development and Planning, and she reached out to Jorge, Rich, and myself tonight to speak on the incident that happened earlier today. Heidi, feel free to take over.
Thank you, Chase, and thank you to you and Jorge for allowing me to barge in on your meeting this evening. But I just thought I would take advantage of the fact that SGA was meeting tonight in order to join you and see if there were questions folks had or points of conversation regarding the incident yesterday in which Emily Radke received 2 text messages with racist and anti-Semitic contents that, as far as we know, came from somebody outside of the campus. But so no big agenda on my part other than to see if there was conversation, questions, any of that would be helpful.
People, go ahead and just raise your hands. Heidi, do you want me to call on them? Or
yes, that'd be great, Chase. Thanks.
Paskazi, go ahead.
Cool. So my question is kind of like an all-encompassing question about campus just in general.
Sure.
I think this incident is very indicative of what continues to happen on this campus because of the lack of policy that the administration has failed to pass. And we have received 0 information on where we are on like DEI like updates and the student demands. So I want to know like what the administration has done to like prevent these issues from happening, because although it happened to Emily, every single person of color felt that on this campus.
Sure. So what I can tell you is that I know that President Kelleher is working on an update that's going to the DEI committee on what's been happening since our last update in the fall. And this is not to say that issues like what happened with Emily don't happen already on campus and at all to belittle it. But I want to point out that, again, this did not come from somebody on campus. And so I don't think it's entirely fair to use that as an example of, okay, so tell me, Cassie, but tell me.
I mean, the person who hate crimed BSU last semester also didn't happen. Like,
Right.
The issue is the lack of protection of Black students and even like non-Christian students on this campus, that situations like this continue to happen. Like whether it's an issue with Simpson firewall that like people are able to get into like private Simpson servers that like no one should have access to unless you are a student here. Because the person who did it to Emily wasn't a student here. Like those are things that need to be put in place, and it's indicative of a larger issue of this culture on campus. Like it's not just one incident that like we're cherry picking that this happened to Emily, and it's outside the realm of possibility that things happen like this, like things happen like that on this campus. Like things like this happen all of the time, just because administration is not aware of them, because again, we don't have a person of color to go to when incidents like this happen. Like it's indicative of a larger situation that the college continues to perpetuate with a failure of passing policy. That is my question. Like, why is the last update that we got on protection of Black students and non-Christian students on this campus all the way back like last fall? That is my question.
So I can't speak for President Kelleher, and I'm not going to try to, but what I will tell you is that when students are targeted, we do have people on the campus that they can reach out to. You can reach out to the Dean of Students, you can reach out to Walter Lane, you can reach out to me, and we do have policies in place that we will use. I would also say that like it is not just a matter of Simpson College wrestling and struggling with systemic racism and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and homophobia and all of that. We are part of a culture that has not figured out how to address his systemic hate. So we need to keep doing our work as a campus to make sure that we've got firewalls where we can, that we have policies and resources in place to assist us, and also to recognize that we are also going to continue to battle the same things that the culture around us battles. We're not separate from the community in which we're embedded, unfortunately, which doesn't mean we don't keep doing the work. We do, hopefully to make our campus better and also so that we are graduating students who can go out and change the broader society. But we need to remember that we are part of that whole, that all you have to do is look at the news and know we are still struggling with this.
Go ahead, Tatum.
Okay. In regards to the email that President Kelleher sent out, I am so tired of getting emails being like, I'm sorry that you were hate crimed. I'm sorry that people are coming after you because you are a POC or you are not a Christian. Sending out emails being like, I'm sorry, here's a link to Black History Month from Simpson. You can watch modules and you can read some literature. That is not enough. And going back to what you were saying, like, we're embedded in a community that is just condoning the actions that have been taken onto students. And that is such, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I also need everyone to understand that as a POC and as a minority, I shouldn't have to censor myself to get my point across. So in this current moment, I'm acting as a student POC, and I get that I'm a class president. I understand the position that I hold, but I just wanted to make that clear to everyone in this room right now. The way that Simpson has handled everything this year is absolutely unacceptable. I am so tired of hearing we've done stuff. What have you done? You put up a Black Lives Matter flag and a Pride Inclusivity flag and said, hey, that is not enough. That is not enough. And we have been asking and asking and asking for you guys to do something, and nothing has been done. I'm on ACDEI. We sent a 5-page email to President Kelleher a week ago, and I've had no response. I am tired of her sending different faculty members to talk to us when you're like, I can't speak on behalf of President Kelleher. Then where is she? What is she doing? She's the president of this institution. She should be the one in this meeting, not you. With all due respect, I appreciate that you're here. I do. But at this point in time, I don't want to hear what President Kelleher has to say through another person, because the questions that we are asking are directed at President Kelleher. And as someone who has been in meetings with her on ACDEI and on other situations, the things that are being relayed is not what she says in those meetings. Is not what she said in those meetings. And as someone who went to her office when we were hate crimed, the first week of classes hadn't even started yet, and we were hate crimed. I asked her what she had done. She said that she was on vacation. Vacation from what? She had the position for maybe 3 weeks. What does she need a vacation from? So going back to Piscazzi's question, because it still wasn't answered, what have you actually done to protect your POCs? Saying that we're in a community where this happens isn't acceptable, because that just shows that you're not protecting your POC students. Because I was scared to go to class for an entire semester last year, and my professor said, sorry, that's not acceptable. My safety shouldn't be threatened to get an education that I'm paying so much money for. It is absolutely unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And saying that you care about your POC students, saying that and not doing anything on it is very, very, very telling of how you feel about your students. Because at this current moment, Simpson doesn't care about its POC students. They don't care about their non-Christian students. They don't care about their gay students, their trans students, their non-binary students. They care about their white students. Because nothing has happened to protect any POCs or any minority on this campus. And it's truthfully disgusting. It is despicable. And the fact that we have been begging for this since the 70s and nothing has happened is disgusting. So again, what work have you done and what work are you going to be doing to make sure that this does not happen again?
You want me to answer now?
Yes, I asked the question.
So first of all, I absolutely did not mean to imply that because these are broader societal issues means that they are not problematic at all, or to suggest that anybody should be subjected to getting the kinds of messages that Emily received yesterday. So I apologize for communicating in a way that suggested that that's what I meant, because I absolutely didn't. Regarding what we are doing, we have already taken steps back in the fall to strengthen our Zoom firewalls. The communication that Emily received seemed to be related to the communications platforms that admissions is using. I think they are going to need to look at how they are monitoring that. So like trying to take steps to build firewalls where we can, from things coming from outside, something that we are looking at. Again, like I don't know how we completely firewall ourselves from the world beyond our campus. Counseling Center is in the process of finalizing an agreement with a practice in the Des Moines area that has mental health people of color that we will be making available to students. I have been working as a member of the subcommittee that has just forwarded a draft to the ACC DEI on hate symbols. And right off the top of my head, those are the two things that I can tell you that we have been working on. And again, I believe that President Kelleher is preparing a response to go to the ACC DEI in response to the email that you sent yesterday. Or last week, sorry, been a long day.
Go ahead, Tatum.
So just a follow-up question in regards to the counseling and mental health portion. While I understand that, giving us a resource to go and talk to people who look like us and who have actually dealt with the experiences that we're living through on this campus, the best counseling services said that they could do, okay, well, that first session will be free. I'm a full-time student. I still have a job. I cannot afford $75 to talk about my mental health so I don't take my own life because of the hatred and the pain that I'm suffering at Simpson. It is unacceptable. And saying that like, there are resources, there's a counseling center, okay, there's no Black, POC, or gay counselors. I can't talk to a cisgendered white woman about my experiences because she has never experienced anything that I have gone through. And that is not good enough. Giving us like, hey, here's a resource. Okay, how are we supposed to pay for that? Okay, that first session is free. Okay. What happens after that? What happens after that first session? Because if you've ever gone to therapy, that first session reopens all of your trauma. And going through one session and never going back can be very detrimental to one's mental health. Very detrimental. So what is happening with that? So like being like resources. Okay, what other resources on Simpson? Because I know a lot of students, they don't have cars. How are they going to get to Des Moines to go to these counseling sessions? Because, there are certain things that just have to be done in person. Because it's awkward sitting behind a screen, sobbing to a stranger that you don't know. It's awkward. But sitting in a room with someone that kind of looks like me or Piscazi, it's a sense of safety and security and a sense of family that we don't have here at Simpson. Because at this point in time, Simpson's not a family. We're not a family, because if we were a family, these types of things wouldn't be happening. because if we really were a family, the first time someone got hate crimed on this campus would have been the last time someone got hate crimed on this campus.
So I know So I know that Ellie was seeking feedback from students, and we're going to use that to go back to look at what the proposal is that we're putting together. So apparently, like, I am assuming from what you're saying that she has started that outreach, and we will take it from there.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Skylar.
What about the students who don't have enough money for counseling?
So our counseling services remain available to students. The agency with which we have been talking, for one, is willing to work on a sliding scale for anybody that wants to continue individual therapy. And we are also talking with them about creating a group that would be taking place on campus here that would be free of charge.
Piscazi.
So instead of like looking to hire a POC counselor, so I don't have to pay for counseling services here that I'm never going to use and then go to someone else that I will have to pay out of my own pocket, like your guys' decision is to just create a sliding scale. Like, for example, I am considered an independent homeless student here. I don't have a singular dollar to pay for therapy, but everybody here and everyone on campus could probably tell you that I need to go to therapy. But I'm not going to sit here and talk. Like, I have heard from multiple POC students on this campus that like counseling services to them is completely useless. And it's not even just because like I can't talk to them. It's that like I don't even feel comfortable bringing up my issues because they will just never understand. And to someone who is not a POC or someone who is like not a minority in general, like we have to silence ourselves to even seek out the help that we need. And your solution to that is to make us pay for these services we are never going to use and then go and pay because you cannot hire someone. So why is Simpson's solution not just to hire someone who is a POC or who is a part of the LGBTQ community or just a minority in general who can understand oppression and discrimination?
We are trying to come up with a solution that will meet as much of the needs as we can, given the financial realities that we're dealing with.
Tatum.
So, since we're broke and tuition was raised, where's that money going? So like we're paying a lot of money and like as of right now, we just keep paying for stuff. Like I'm a junior. When I came here, counseling was free because, mental health, you shouldn't have to pay for not wanting to kill yourself. I shouldn't have to pay for
and
getting
counseling,
my mental health.
And I do have to say,
finish. Please do not interrupt me. Please let me finish. Oh, actually, you can go ahead. I am done.
So I want to say counseling on campus continues to be free. It has been, it still is. I am not the chief financial officer of the college or the one who's got the best information about the budget, but I will tell you, if you were part of the town hall that took place last week, college continues to face deficits. We have frozen faculty and staff salary. We have cut faculty and staff retirement benefits. We need to make sure that we are compensating our faculty and staff, that we are providing the programs that you all want. We are hiring new faculty and staff, including the vice president for DEI. All of that part of the resources that we need in order to keep the institution moving forward.
Anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Skylar.
Okay, so you said counseling services was free as of right now, correct?
Mhm.
And so what was that email about? That there was an email getting sent, or was that just me?
No. So there is not a charge for counseling services. Starting next year, there is a wellness fee that we are adding. The main thing that is getting used for is to extend health services on campus. We're going to be hiring a nurse practitioner so that we are able to provide a fuller range of services. We also were able to take the third counseling position, which is part-time, and make that full-time so that we can extend our wellness services. There will not be fees for service at the point that anybody is seeking any of this. So office visits will continue to be free, but there will be a broader range of services available on campus than we've been able to offer before. And that don't require somebody to use insurance.
Any other questions, guys? Katie, go ahead.
I guess this might be a dumb question, but with that extra money going to health and wellness, is there a reason why we can't use that to help our people of color on campus, like, afford to be able to go to a counselor that will help them?
Right. I mean, so we already are planning to put resources in this semester to provide, even though it's limited, to offer that group that would be on campus to provide at least that initial consultation. And again, now that Ellie has been able to get some student feedback, that gives us a chance to go back and reconsider, all right, how do we need to continue to refine this proposal so that we can make those services available in a way that will help meet students' needs? But we already are finding the money to pay for whatever we put in place still for this year.
These have all been really good questions. Is there anyone else who has any last minute things to say? All right, well, thank you, Heidi, for coming. I know some of your answers are limited. You're just not always the best person to answer some of the more in-depth questions. Jorge and I will for sure be reaching out to President Kelleher or anyone else who we think, along with Rich's assistance, can answer some of these questions a little better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Heidi,
Thanks again for letting me take up some of your time.
Yeah, have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. We will now move on to item number 4, reports. In my report, I introduced Heidi. I would now like to just read off something that Jorge, Rich, and myself came up with on behalf of SGA as a whole to announce the live stream. I'll go ahead and read that now. I am hoping by now most of you have read the email sent to the campus community by President Kelleher. We want to make it 100% clear to this body and to the rest of the campus community that this reprehensible act by an ignorant individual or individuals does not represent what this SGA stands for. If there are any individuals who support behaviors such as this sitting around the table, now is the time to remove yourself from this body, as support for these types of activities will not be tolerated. Should we find any individual involved in SGA that supports these horrible actions, we will take immediate action for that person or persons removed from SGA. SGA will also work to put forth meaningful resolutions to ensure that Simpson College aggressively addresses these issues and works to better educate everyone in the community and aggressively combat all forms of racism. We stand in support of Emily and any other student or employee of the college who continue to endure such acts as these. We expect that all members of SGA will actively and vocally speak up against these acts and any other similar acts, attitudes, or behaviors. So we can now move into welcoming Garen Crane to SGA. He is the newly elected junior class president. So Garen, go ahead and turn on your camera. Sorry, what'd you say?
Senator.
Senator, my bad. Sorry. Yes, Senator. Garen, so go ahead, repeat after me. You can keep your mic on or off. It's up to you. But please raise your right hand if you are able and repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute the office of junior class senator
the office of junior class senator
of the Simpson College SGA
of the Simpson College SGA
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve and uphold the Constitution and bylaws of the SGA
the Constitution and bylaws of the SGA
and represent the students of Simpson College.
and represent the students of Simpson College.
All right, congratulations, Garen.
Thank you.
In my other reports, CMT updates, the AD has requested that I just share a little bit of information. The windows above Cole's gym during games are not for students to gather in. As we all know, that creates quite the risk for the spread of COVID when people are all super tight trying to watch the game. But the good news is with the help of the AD, CMT, and Rich, student attendance will start to become available. They're still in the works, but it's going to be a random selection and a sign up will go out and stuff like that. And those 25 students that are selected can attend the game. So in order for this to happen, we need to follow the rules. So if students could please just avoid the gathering above the gym and stuff like that, we can get those plans set in place. This is all in works right now. So be on the watch for an email that better explains all of it. But I think this is a good step moving forward and having that college experience and having students attend certain events that should be student attended per se. I am also have been selected to be on the search committee for a new dean of students / director of residence of resident life. So if you guys have any questions about that position or things you feel we need to have and characteristics or stuff like that we need to have in that position, feel free to reach out to me and I will take them and bring them to that committee. And lastly, Learning Programs Committee met today. That's my subcommittee for the Board of Trustees of Simpson College. A lot of technical difficulties and stuff, so we didn't meet quorum, and a lot of that got pushed to right before Friday's Board of Trustees meetings. Long report, but that is all I have. Now we can move on to Student Body President Jorge Castellon.
Hello. So as you guys are aware, we will be attending the board meeting on Friday. It's going to be Elliot, Courtney Reyna, who is the president of CAB, Chase and I. So that will be, yes, this Friday at 9 a.m. My resource committee met this Monday, and there was basically many things that were discussed in the town hall with regards to the finances, how we're moving forward, our enrollment, our retention, and how's that's doing. So just general stuff like that. Some big things that I noticed is that we're retaining lower income students and persons of color better than our competitors. And so that was unique. We have less individuals, but it's moving better in that regards. Yeah, many things that were discussed in the town hall, which was this last Thursday, was discussed. A lot about the energy audit and how they're moving forward with that. They're very forward looking in that as well. So yes, and then we will need a new committee a new member for Katie, which is the Committee on Academic Diversity and Inclusion. Professor Shane Cox reached out to me as he was looking to find another members. One of the members had to step down. So in general discussion, when we get it, I'd appreciate some nominations because it's an important committee that's historically been, or as long as I've been here, very active. And the description of it states 2 students appointed by Student Government Association in consultation with Katie members with advice from multicultural and diverse student organizations. Other student constituents may be included as well. So I believe the current member right now, one of the 2 is Caricia. And yes, so yeah. And let's see. The other thing, today there was faculty meeting. They voted. It was quite long. There's a lot of things they're gonna have. I believe potentially a special meeting to continue voting because there's gonna be a new curriculum. The curriculum that's started last year, proposed last year, in which there'll be a 2-semester first year Foundations 1 and Foundations 2, which is basically like it's like SE 101, but it's like SE 101 that will incorporate all first years into civic engagement and diversity and power. So it's kind of like, from what I understood, I may not be the best one. I believe that's an EPCC committee, what they do, but it's like you have 2 semesters with 5 general themes that everyone's gonna do, and then like 25% of those, like the coursework will be similar. So like essentially all of the first year students should have a 25% fundamental knowledge of civic engagement, diversity, and power as like a foundation moving forward. And like their classes will be different, but everyone I'm guessing will read similar things, talk about similar issues, and move forward with that. But let's see. Yeah, because that was voted on, and they're not fully done with the vote because it's going to be an interim. Interim curriculum. Yes. And then SCB members. I reached out to them, and most of them replied that they were in good. They were in good academic standing, and they both could. Sorry. And that sorry, I lost my train of thought. My apologies. I was trying to read the chat. I'll get to you, Paskazi, real quick. And then that all the SCB members, all of them have replied saying that they were interested. So I don't know what was the issue necessarily there. I don't know if it was just the first meeting that they were unable to attend or what. There's only one member right now that's trying to get their work study switched. That way they can still attend SCB. And like 3 other members have not replied yet. So I don't think we should be appointing a new SCB members at the moment yet, because everyone's that I reached out to everybody, they all responded with the same interest. So questions or comments? I'll let Paskazi go ahead. I mean, she has a comment in the chat, as you guys can see, but I don't know if there's something else. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm on the EPCC committee that has to do with the curriculum change that Jorge was talking about. They didn't vote on the whole curriculum change. They're only voting on the Foundations 1 and 2 change, which is particularly supposed to be for next year's incoming freshmen. So there will be a full curriculum change, but right now what they are just trying to get past is the change to SC. So instead of having one SC class that you attend, like only your first semester, the idea is that we get freshmen more engaged and like you have a longer period of time to be more active with other freshmen rather than you just having that one introductory course and then like never doing anything again. So like Jorge said, it's Foundations 1 where you talk mostly about civic engagement, and then Foundations 2 where the focus is mostly on like diversity and power. And then after that year, then the whole curriculum will change, and it's mostly right now changes to the ECC like designations, but the whole curriculum will change after that if the vote is passed, because we're only voting on Foundations 1 and 2 change right now, and it's kind of like an interim period and like a transitional period. So like it doesn't affect anyone who is already at Simpson. It only affects the next incoming class. So they'll start with foundations 1 and 2, and then when they get out of their first year, hopefully the whole curriculum change will pass and they'll be on a completely different curriculum than what we are on now. But there's a lot of controversy on it because surprisingly, a lot of the faculty don't think that we are doing enough for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is fantastic. And I love that that's where the priority is because of that specification on diversity of power in the second foundation. They all want to like make sure that students are getting that diversity and power throughout their entire time at Simpson. And some of the ECC changes, like specifically to world languages, are being changed. It mostly has to do with what we have available at Simpson and like how many students need to take something. So like, for example, a lot of students need to like come here and take like a foreign language, but we have way too many seats of students who need to take a foreign language and not enough like classes and professors to teach those. So they're like decreasing how many credits you need of like, or like decreasing the requirement for world language and things like that. Like it's all very analytical and it's all about like what Simpson needs and what we have and trying to make it possible for Simpson to continue to provide an adequate education for everyone. But like I said, it doesn't affect anyone who is here and it will not ever affect you most likely.
Yeah, that was perfectly said because you just that one. So essentially just next year's class will be like the in-betweeners that are converting. So maybe they'll have to some different curriculum changes, but yeah, well said. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
All right. Elliot is unable to attend tonight, so their FAC was unable to meet, so there are no new budget requests. So we will go ahead and move on to junior class president Tatum Claiborne. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Tatum.
just give me a second. I don't even remember what it was my report. Oh, people are using the bulletin board in Kent, which is dope. Love that. Whenever we have the next exec meeting, I'm gonna see if we can get supplies to like decorate it, I guess. I don't know, be festive, that's fun. And then we also need to nominate 2 more people for ACDEI because the other 2 just haven't showed up at all. And while I love being the student chair, I'm also only one person and I cannot attend every meeting. So either if we want to do that this week or next week, I don't really care. But ACDEI, if you don't know, is the Academic Committee on Diversity and Inclusion. I'm the official student chair, so the other 2 will be representatives of the students. And then George Love is the staff representative and Maeve Callan is the faculty representative, and essentially it's all oh, sorry, I was reading that. But yeah, you guys know what ACDEI is. I'm not going to try to explain it. You guys are all smart people. You guys know what that is. So please be conscious when you are nominating people. And I would love to see some younger faces in the committee as I'm only here for another semester because I will be going to DC. Yeah, that's it. It's in my report.
Tatum, I kind of have a question. So do we need to reach out to anyone about the other 2 people not showing up, or can we just nominate people and then relay that to them?
No, they didn't show up, so I'm not going to give them the courtesy of having them have another opportunity. No, they didn't show up at all when they should have showed up. So no, just nominate new people.
Okay. We will talk about that in general discussion. If I forget about that, please remind me. Okay, so now we'll move on to sophomore class president, Frank Cruz. Go ahead, Frank.
We had a meeting this Monday and the main thing we talked about was hygiene dispensers. So hopefully we're starting that project by the end of this week. We're gonna start off with bowls, of course, then progress into either like a push button or touchless sensor so we can supply those already. And then of course it's gonna help us acknowledge where the most traffic is targeted and those places. The highly populated places is where the dispensers would be located first, or it gives us enough time to like put enough sensors to each one, either if it's a push button or a touchless, as I just said before. And then after that, we are potentially looking at doing a campus-wide program. We will talk more about that in our next CCC meeting on Monday.
Awesome. Any questions for Frank? Piscazi? Go ahead.
So, I don't know why this occurred to me why this didn't occur to me when Chase was no longer sophomore class president. But I'm assuming what you meant by hygiene dispensers was like hand sanitizers. My question is back to my passion project from last year, which is period things like pads and tampon dispensers in the bathrooms. And I don't know if that's something that you were going to take that Chase Henry was doing, but I would love to see that continue. And I know that there is a need for them because people have asked me about them this year. And I just no longer live near Kent, so I will not be supplying those in the bathrooms every week like I did last year.
I think that's what he is talking about, Frank, right?
Yes, that's what I was mainly talking about.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have explained more about it.
Fantastic. Just when you said main traffic areas, I was like, and like motion detectors, I was like, that sounds like hand sanitizer and not like pads and tampons. So I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Any other questions for Frank? All right, seeing none, we can move on to first year class president, Will Keck. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, so a lot of new clubs got like new presidents this semester or just kind of transitioning leadership roles. So we're hoping to get an email sent out to all of them and possibly have a meeting and then just discuss with them like the new bulletin board, how to make budget requests, just reminding them and making sure that they hopefully use that opportunity and get those out there so we can have some more stuff to vote on and have more activities. And then, yeah, just tell them about some upcoming opportunities and activities that we can do now that we're in yellow phase and then just answer any questions. So looking forward to that.
Awesome. Any questions for Will? Piscazi, go ahead.
I'm sorry that I have so many questions. And I know I could just ask Tatum this because she lives with me, but you brought it up, Will, so I was going to ask you. With the new change in presidents, are you guys still going to do the bias training for all of the organizations? Or are you guys going to wait till like all of those transitions and presidents like get finalized?
Tatum, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, can I answer that, Chase?
Yeah, go ahead, Tatum.
Okay, yeah. So yes, everyone will still be getting bias training. This semester has been a lot already, so I just haven't reached out to Isaiah yet, so my bad, but it will get done this semester. Just be patient with me, please.
All right. See no other questions. We can now move on to item number 5, old business. There's no old business. We can move on to item number 6, new business. There's also no new business. So now we can move on to item number 7, general discussion. I added in-person / hybrid SGA meetings because I know that we have now moved on to yellow phase. So that is an option if some people are comfortable. I'm sure some people won't be comfortable with that or may not be able to attend an in-person meeting, but returning somewhat back to normalcy is always a good option. For those of you who don't know, we used Hubble last year. It's a big space where you can spread out. Every person can have their own table or 2 people per table, similar to like what your classes are, except a little more safe. Because Hubble is such a big room. So I just wanted to know if you guys have any thoughts on that. And Rich could maybe go into more detail about what last year consisted of as well.
Yeah, I think, as Chase kind of alluded to, I think ultimately we want to ensure that you all are comfortable in what we provide. And that as senators, you all have the opportunity to participate fully in these meetings. But I also realize that there's, as I think somebody mentioned a little bit earlier in the discussion with Heidi, that looking at screens just doesn't do it. And I think that we're all getting really tired looking at screens. And I think that there's a lot of value in having us all in the same place. And we know that there's going to be a few hoops and some logistics that we'd have to work through to ensure that it's safe and all those sorts of pieces. But I also know that we have an opportunity where we can meet together. But again, I'm not going to force you all into a room if y'all don't feel comfortable doing it.
Go ahead, Wyatt.
I guess on my end, and what I think is, I have no problem meeting, and I think it would be very nice if we all met together. I think just logistical things to think of before we decide are, one being, since there's that face-to-face interaction per se, and that is super helpful in anything that you do. However, we will be wearing masks the whole time, so you won't be able to see facial expressions as well as we would on Zoom. But besides that, and then if someone happen to be in quarantine, we'd have to Zoom them in. And that's another aspect to think of. But I'm down for it. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Wyatt. Corey, go ahead.
Hi, yes. So in reference to meeting in person, I know I was like a real stickler on I don't want to do anything in person. Your girl's high risk. That idea is very scary. With the option of hybrid, so like those who are more than willing and feel safe going in person can go in person, and then we can have Zoom as well. Would that be an option to include our students of high risk or students who prefer to stay virtual? Also, if we do decide to go completely into Hubble as all of us and no more virtual as like an attempt to normalcy, can we guarantee social distancing, disinfectant, and proper mask wearing? Just because I'm still scared of the virus. It's been a year, I still haven't caught it, and I'm really trying to stay away from it.
Chase, I can answer that. Yes, Corey, we would definitely make available hybrid, because I think there are going to be situations, as we're already experiencing now, where a student comes in casual contact and all of a sudden they're in quarantine and they can't come to a meeting. So I think that that's a realization we're going to have to live through probably throughout this semester. I think that's just the way life is going to work. I also am committed to ensuring that people wear face masks properly and that we sanitize appropriately before you all get in the room and after you leave and all that sort of stuff. The other thing, so that you all understand too, in a lot of the studies, because on what I've been paying attention to from the event management side, is there are studies that have been done that show that a lot of the transmission of disease is all about air exchange rate and turnover when it's in the building. Kent Campus Center has probably the highest air exchange rate of any building on campus. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when you walk into Hubble and those doors are open, it's like a mad rush of air coming out of the room. It's because if those rooms have negative air pressure, which means that the air is changing over at such a high rate, that's why there's that push of air coming out of the room. The air is changing so significantly. So that's also another piece to keep in mind in the space. But yeah, we would take whatever steps need to be taken to ensure it's a safe space for everybody. But like I said before, I do not want to put anybody who is uncomfortable or at risk or in a position where they don't want to be. That's not an intention. And you are all sitting around this table because you chose to be here, and I want to respect that. But I also want to make sure that you are comfortable sitting around this table too.
Maybe we could do like a pre-meeting watch Rich with his Ghostbuster sanitization machine spraying the room. That'd be pretty good pre-meeting. Paskazi, go ahead.
So mine's more of a logistical question for Rich. Do we know how like recording people on Zoom and in person would work, or we would just record people in person and not people on Zoom?
I think we'd have to I think there are ways that we can do both. I need to look at some of the technical aspects of it to see exactly how we would manage the video, but my inclination is that we would be able to run video into a computer in the room and run it as like a webcam via Zoom. So like, you all would be able to get it the way it needs to get. Now, the only challenging piece that we'd have to figure out is the audio piece to make sure that everybody can hear. And that's one piece that we'd have to figure out. And I'm willing to figure it out and spend some time doing that. So if you all would give me like until next week to kind of do some playing and thinking about how we might make that audio piece work, I'm happy to share it once I have a little bit more of a solution on that side.
Good question, Piscazzi. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So would it be something that we're not committing to going in person and we're not committing to going in Zoom? So if it comes to that day, like we can decide that day, or are you going to want us to stay on Zoom or stay in person? Like,
That'd probably be a good that's a good discussion to have. I know we talked a little about different things like having class presidents there, but there's also that chance of coming into contact with someone you just don't know. I don't see a reason to not allow someone to go on Zoom if they're not comfortable, say they've changed their mind. I don't think that would be a problem, but Rich, if you have anything else.
Yeah, I know that last semester when we started out going into the yellow phase, we also talked about, like Chase said, bringing in class presidents and maybe one or two others out of each class and kind of doing that in a rotation and then Zooming everybody else in. But I think it's worth a conversation to see where everybody is. And maybe what we can do in the group me, Chase, is send out a basic poll so we have an idea of how many people are not at all comfortable meeting in person, how many would be willing to do it like maybe every other week, how many would be willing to do it right now, and let's just have at it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we can now move on to Katie. We need to select or nominate one member. Do we have any?
Before we get into putting out names, let me stop the stream real quick so that we're not discussing students and it's going everywhere. So give me a half second and I will stop that stream.